Why even make the promises if they're not going to keep them? Oh wait, it's an election. Hey there, I'm 𝗳𝗲𝗿𝗁, real estate agent in Regina. That's my trusted assistant Matilda, and we're getting close to election day. You may have voted already. There was like 7 million people that voted in the advance polls. That is awesome. If you haven't voted already, please get out and vote. It's important to have your voice heard. In this video, I want to break down what each political party is promising they're going to do to make housing more affordable for you. And then I'm going to rain on their parade because honestly, I don't think they're going to do most of what they're going to say. And at the end of the day, the federal government doesn't have a ton of control when it comes to making housing more affordable in Canada. We'll start off by talking about the Conservatives, which are promising to eliminate the GST on all new construction for purchases up to $1.5 million. And I'm in favor of anything that reduces taxes and makes it cheaper to build housing in Canada, so I'm good with this. Next up, they're promising to unlock federal land to get housing built on. What federal land in the middle of Toronto or Vancouver are they unlocking to provide more affordable housing in those two cities? Honestly, I don't have a clue. Yes, there's lots of federal land all throughout the country. How much of it is in actual cities where people are living? Well, the answer is almost nothing. When it comes to getting more homes built, the Conservatives want to use kind of like a stick and carrot method. They want to see municipalities approve and get built 15% more homes. Admirable goal. To incentivize municipalities to do so, if they hit those targets and exceed them, then the federal government will give them more money for different infrastructure projects the municipalities want. If they don't hit those targets, then the federal government is going to reduce the amount of money they're giving to these municipalities. Ultimately, getting municipalities on board is going to be key because, of course, that is who approves all building permits and decides on zoning bylaws. The Conservatives are also promising to have about 460,000 new homes built per year in Canada to make up for the shortage that we have. That sounds great in theory and it's an admirable goal, but the best year we've ever had in Canada is about 275,000 homes built in a single year. 460,000 a year, that is a massive increase. We went after the Liberal government and their housing targets, which were similar to this, saying there's absolutely no chance that this ever happens, and the Liberals never hit their housing targets, and the same applies to this. There just simply isn't the capacity to get 460,000 homes built per year in Canada. It just doesn't exist. The last policy here is one that I have heard Pierre Poilievre talk about previously, but it seems to have disappeared during the election campaign, and that was tying the immigration numbers to housing starts. And I actually think this is a good idea if they end up doing it, and not just for housing, but also for services, healthcare, jobs, everything. We need to find that balance for new Canadians and our capacity to take in, house, provide jobs, everything for new Canadians. Next, let's talk about Mark Carney and the Liberal Party of Canada, which they are promising to also eliminate the GST on new construction, but only for first-time homebuyers and only for purchases under $1 million. Again, I'm happy to see less taxes on housing, but ultimately, is this going to be what makes housing affordable or not in Canada? No, it's not, but it's a small step. And not to be outdone by Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, Mark Carney and the Liberals are promising that they're going to get 500,000 homes built per year. And just like I said about Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, there is no way they're ever going to hit this target. Mark Carney and Liberals are also promising that the government is going to get back into the business of building homes in Canada. Personally, I'm not really a big fan of the government competing against the private market, but with the lack of homes we have in Canada and the crisis that it has become, maybe it's time we try a different approach. I'm just not confident the government is actually going to be able to deliver this. I mean, it's not like governments are known for delivering things on time and on budget ever. And of course, Liberals are talking about unlocking Crown land again, because of course there's all this Crown land right in the middle of downtown Toronto that you could build all these single family homes on, right? Come on. When you go through the platform that the Liberals and Mark Carney have put together, it seems they're very much focused on rental housing. A lot less emphasis is put on end user homes that you could end up buying and owning. And of course, that has absolutely nothing to do with Brookfield being a major rental property company, right? Looking at the NDP housing plan, they basically said, hey, hold my beer, 460,000 homes isn't enough, 500,000 homes isn't enough. The NDP is promising to get 600,000 homes built in a year. And not only are the NDP's chances of actually forming government basically zero at this point, this promise is just never going to be one that's going to be met, ever. The NDP has also talked about having government-backed mortgages for first-time homebuyers at reduced rates. They've thrown out rates at 0.5% lower than what the existing rates are. And this one is very much a dog whistle policy. They're going to ban corporations from buying up affordable housing. Okay, sounds great in theory. Who's going to own the rental properties if corporations can't own them? They also want to make the existing foreign buyer ban permanent. There is actually an expiration on this right now. And of course, not to be outdone by the Conservatives and the Liberals, that NDP is also promising they will unlock federal land and they're going to get 100,000 homes that are rent controlled built on that federal land. That's their promises. Now, what do I think the federal government could and should do to make housing more affordable? Well, I'll go on a little bit of a rant here, but let me explain what I think. We have in Canada a pre-existing shortage of homes, and not just the number of homes, but the types of homes. Now, anybody who's telling you, oh, we don't have a housing shortage in Canada, look at all the active inventory in Toronto right now. A temporary increase in active inventory doesn't make up for the fact that we have an existing housing shortage in Canada. So just anybody saying that, ignore them. They're wrong. And then, of course, we saw a massive population boom in the last couple of years, and we didn't build anywhere near enough homes to meet that demand either. And unfortunately for the federal government, whoever ends up getting elected, they ultimately have very little control when it comes to increasing housing supply. Yes, of course, they do hold the other side of the equation, and that is housing demand when it comes to immigration policy. We've talked at length. We need to find a way to have the immigration and our housing policy and the rest of the services in Canada line up. If you're looking at what makes housing so expensive in Canada, there's of course a multitude of factors. We have land transfer taxes. Municipal and provincial governments love these because they're an absolute cash cow. And they have used them to generate massive amounts of wealth. So the same governments that always talk about how they want more affordable housing are also the same ones digging probably the deepest into your pockets for your hard-earned cash. You know what would be great political policy? If they had to start every one of their speeches with one of my terrible bad dad jokes. What do you call a security guard at a Samsung factory? Guardian of the Galaxy. If you have a terrible joke I can use in the future, put it in the comments below. And don't even get me started on the permitting process. You've got some cities where it takes upwards of a year to get a building permit for a single family home in a brand new greenfield subdivision. There's absolutely no excuse for that. Edmonton has been piloting a project where for greenfield development, so brand new subdivisions, if you have a single family home, or I think duplexes also count in this, they have essentially automatic approvals. As long as you hit the main criteria, you get a building permit that day. That's the way it should be. And don't forget about development charges. This is another way that the municipal and provincial governments are sticking their hands deeper into your pockets, taking more money from you. If you look at taxes and fees, typically that makes up 30 to 35% of the cost of new construction. And those fees have gone up dramatically faster than the actual cost of labor and materials to build houses in Canada. And the federal government is not innocent in this either, because in about 2016, they realized that CMHC, the government corporation that insures mortgages in Canada, well, they had a whole bunch of extra cash, and they started demanding that CMHC dividend money to them in the tune of literally billions of dollars that came from basically first-time homebuyers trying to get their houses insured because they have to, because it's federal regulation. Well, that just went straight into the General Revenue Fund. Essentially, the federal government turned first-time homebuyers into a revenue generation machine. And unfortunately, this housing problem we have in Canada is unlikely to be solved in an election cycle. And politicians love quick and easy wins. If it fits in a Twitter, X post, or one of those podium banners they have now, that's good policy if it fits there. And all of the political parties are talking about how many homes they're going to get built. But not all homes are created equally. I don't think many people are going to say, I want to raise my family of 3 or 4 kids in a 1-bedroom downtown dog crate Toronto condo. So we need to stop looking at just the total number of homes that are potentially being built and the types of homes that are also being built. Are they serving the needs of Canadians? Because I really don't think a 1-bedroom, 400 square foot condo serves most Canadians. Okay, so if I was Prime Minister, what would I like to see changed? And no, I'm not going to be running for federal politics anytime soon, although I have a political science degree and I enjoy following politics. yeah, that's not something I actually want to get into. We need to get more homes built, but we also need to look at what types of homes are being built. We need more single family homes. We're basically not building those anymore. And of course, townhouses, row houses, duplexes, all that type of stuff. I get it. We want more density. But I think if you ask most Canadians what type of home they want to live in, it's probably a single family home. So we need to find a way to get more of those built and make them more affordable. Clearly taxing housing to the point of it being the biggest contributor to cost increases is not working to make housing more affordable. We need to get development charges, land transfer taxes, all of that stuff. Honestly, we got to find a way to get rid of it because we can't continue to use housing as a way to generate revenue to run the government. A lot of people have talked about how we should have a national building code. I would argue that's probably a bad idea because what you need to build a home in, say, Vancouver is going to be different than what you need in Saskatchewan or Toronto. You have different thermal needs, different snow loads, moisture, etc. All of those. And that's why we still need regionality in building codes. But if we can simplify it, absolutely. We probably also need to look at some way to bring modular homes or at least semi-modular assembly of homes. That's a little bit of a trickier subject, but building stick frame homes, although it's fantastic and it's worked for a very long time, there's probably some ways we can make this better so we can build houses quicker and more cost effectively. And I know politicians of all stripes have thrown out how we need to ban this or legislate that. Remember when we were going to ban blind bidding and all of a sudden that disappeared? That is just masking or covering up the symptoms of the deeper problem. I'm a simple guy. We need to balance supply and demand, and all of the other things will start sorting themselves out. Yes, we can tweak things, but ultimately that's the core problem. Blind bidding isn't an issue when you have a balanced market. Foreign buyers buying up all the housing isn't an issue if you have an equal balanced supply and prices aren't rapidly appreciating, because they're not going to buy them if they're not doing that. So all of these symptoms that we like to address, nothing is being done for the core problem. That's my rant on this Canadian election. Please get out and vote and let me know in the comments section below. If you were Prime Minister or you're running for federal politics, what types of housing policies would you like to see implemented? I would love to hear what you guys have to say, and maybe we'll feature them in a future video.